Carla ASMR.
ASMR.
Hello and welcome to Faster Horses. I'm Mark Sutcliffe at marks_out of10 on Twitter if you want to find me there. And these are my co-hosts, Nick Tomlinson at NT Illustrators on Twitter. Hello, Nick.
Hello.
And Paul Wilshaw at Paul Wilshaw on Twitter. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Mark.
This is Series 3 of Faster Horses. If you haven't heard of Series 1 or 2, check out those on whichever platform you prefer. You can now also get extended versions of these same episodes early by signing up to our Faster Horses Patreon, as well as one extra Patreon exclusive episode a month, along with other benefits detailed on the site. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really does help the show, and also follow our official Twitter page at Faster Horses UX for regular updates, interesting and useful articles and random musings from the team. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the show.
It's funny, isn't it? You'd think because there's more fonts like that occupy...
Are you about to say that you didn't record?
Yeah. I thought it was recording, but it wasn't.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm too hungover for this shit.
Oh, someone's at the front door.
It picks up phone. That's the
God.
most cognitively dissonant thing I think I've ever seen.
Someone tried to sell me something.
Yeah,
Not answering that
What is
one.
it? Is it rags? Is it microfiber cloths?
Yeah. Is it
No, it's not.
Mark Steele's moved in next door? Can I just also add that we didn't record, we forgot to hit recording, and now Nick decides he's going to put his pop shield on.
I took the opportunity to put it on because when I was talking in the last version, which no one will ever hear, all you could hear was fucking... So...
I blame James Med
That's the easiest thing
for
to
not
do.
recording, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's not here to defend himself, is he? So
Well, no.
That's exactly it.
that's how we
Not
roll.
bad. Love you. Well, yeah, we mentioned how we did our theme tune music, so go and check him out, people.
Yeah,
Yep.
James Med, composer, UX designer. There's not very much that man can't do.
He's quite handsome as well, which is good. It's the main reason I befriended him.
What a wee Mark chop liver.
Super shallow.
Don't be so jealous, Nick. I also think you're attractive.
I've been called chop liver before, so
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Was that Drew?
Yeah. But beggars can't be choosers, can they?
Indeed.
Not me, not her.
Yeah, I was going to say. This is going to be interesting when she listens back to it.
Right, okay, so we've gathered you here today then to talk about corporate Memphis.
Cool.
Right.
Does someone want to explain what that is?
You do, Nick. I want to hear your description of corporate Memphis again.
Yeah. All right, so what Mark's alluding to there is not the fact that I've previously explained what corporate Memphis is on a previous podcast, which I have done, and you can go back and listen to that episode at your leisure, either on Spotify or any other streaming service, or even subscribe to our Patreon.
Get the extended cut.
Yeah, Patreon/Faster Horses UX. So what it is it's a term often used disparagingly for an art style that has found its way into the public conscious through various corporations. You will have seen it if you've been on the internet since 2019. You will have seen it, and essentially it consists of sort of flat, nicely coloured, geometric illustrations, usually comprised of people with trendy haircuts and clothes on, with long.
Not always, but
trendy clothes.
Oh
on.
right,
Yeah.
I see. I just heard clothes
Just
on there.
clothes on.
Bit of a Freudian slip on my part.
Sidebar. It's so prolific across the internet that style has actually found its way onto Pornhub. So
Has it?
yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Is that like the onboarding experience?
I'm using my work laptop to record this, so I'm not going to type in corporate Memphis Pornhub.
Don't check that, but
But I recommend our users do so now, regardless of
Wherever
whose
you
laptop they're on, preferably in a public library.
Especially if you're presenting on a boardroom screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it now.
I once worked with a guy Oh well, no, it was actually a substitute teacher. I was at school, and this story isn't as interesting as it should be. So I regret even starting it. But he just happened to play. He just happened to play solitaire, and it came up on a lot of screens around this church. we were performing in.
Prawn.
And, pardon?
Prawn.
Yeah, but this is it. I was thinking he's exactly the kind of character who would search for Pornhub corporate Memphis whilst in a church. Because, it's a small leap to make. Solitaire one day, corporate Memphis Pornhub the next.
I've just realised does that mean that you missed me singing Walking in Memphis?
Yeah. We need
yeah.
that again.
Son of a bitch. No.
Come on.
Absolutely not. Maybe for UX Tombola.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Well,
When it comes to the theme tune.
Walking in Memphis, Tombola-esque.
Yeah, mashup.
Yeah, cool.
Cher meets UX Tombola. Right, so
corporate Memphis.
Yeah, so corporate Memphis. So it's a style you will have seen. It's like noodle arms, proportioned people, nice colours. The colours tend to change depending on when they're getting made, but they use a sort of pastel-y and flat, nice colours, unless they're the corporate colours that have been kind of thrust upon the illustration.
Yeah.
Usually enjoying themselves, like oppressively happy is a term that has been thrown around to describe them. Usually
on a
involved on a beat, lots of bean bags, lots
eating
of tech,
tacos, always tacos for some reason.
Floating in the air, using
buns.
tech, man buns.
Man buns.
Man
Yeah.
Oh, that hairstyle.
The hairstyle.
Yeah,
My God.
Top
I need
knots,
to have a
whatever
word
you
with
want.
myself.
And
I thought you were speaking about the Pornhub version then.
Yeah. Well, maybe so.
Innocent.
Well,
Straight down
evidently I've got a preoccupation about man buns. It's quite different to yours.
You and the audience have signed up for just that exact kind of misunderstanding, Paul. So it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
So that's what it is in a nutshell. And I think the more we talk about this, the more we'll kind of discover like why that is. And I've got some like ruminations around why that is as well.
Ooh. Me too.
But yeah, that's it. That's what it is. You've probably not heard that expression so much. It's not one that is the most common, really. It's got various names. Some are a little bit controversial.
Yeah, it's kind of just known as that corporate style, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what it's become known as. But yeah, so a lot of people, as I mentioned in the first draft of this conversation, it's become a bit of a whipping boy for people, and it's become like almost the Comic Sans of illustration. And by that I mean that people who aren't necessarily familiar or like affair with illustration and design are posting about it and saying sort of derogative things, like there's a lot of people online saying I hate this illustration style on Twitter and things like that. And I think it's a little bit unfair to say that because there's a number of reasons. Number one is when it first came out, a lot of people liked it. It came out officially. It was tracked back to a design studio called Book that created a design system or a brand package for Facebook called not Allegra.
Allegra apparently.
Allegra.
So I typed in Book Allegra to Google this just to validate it, and I've now got a restaurant reservation.
Is it? Is it not Alegria? Anyway, it's Spanish for joy, basically. So it will be a little bit more lyrical than me saying Allegra, but it'll be like Allegria or something like that. There'll be a roll of the R. But anyway, so that's where it originally came from in 2019. But it's a style that was very much being used by kind of folksy, at-home, side of the desk sort of illustrators. And it's a style I saw emerging right back when I was working in like an art shop, which was, probably about 10 years ago at least now. That kind of, ladies with like your short cropped bobs sat on bean bags, flowers in the background, long noodly limbs in lovely like earthy and pastel tones and stuff. And I just think it's a bit unfair that these people have been like cultivating that illustration style for 10 years. And it just so happens that a design company have produced a nice set of illustrations for an evil corporation like Facebook, and it was so good, and it worked so well that every other corporation in the world have then looked at that illustration style and gone, "Oh, let's do
Let's do that, yeah."
And then that's proliferated then through every corporation, and people invariably notice patterns. And when they actually look at it and say, "I hate this illustration style," what they're actually saying is that they hate what it stands for now.
Yeah.
And so I like to make that definition between hating the style, which is very good and has its merits, and it's unfair to dismiss the work of real people who still probably even illustrate like that now. They've spent a large proportion of their career cultivating this style that people are just writing off now, who've probably never tried to illustrate anything in their lives.
Well, if you go back to the source, I reckon that will have far more character than a lot of what we see, because it's indicative of what was available. I mean, the resources. I mean, this was a design agency dedicated towards exploring this style as part of, I imagine, a Facebook rebrand initiative or something like that. And I imagine thus there was a fuck ton of money behind it. And that meant that there was time to research, there was time to investigate, to conceptualize. And I reckon if you've got systems now, you've got corporations who see this style and go, "That's what we want," they're probably going to their one in-house designer and saying, "You recreate that now. You've got 20 minutes. See you then."
So you've just hit on a point that I wanted to make eventually, which is you've nailed it there, and you've said it explicitly without, I don't think, even realizing that you've said it. It's illustration that's been created by designers.
Yeah, all right, I understand. As opposed to illustrators.
Yeah. So it's by design. It's been created by people who aren't illustrators and don't necessarily have that understanding. Like having a good designer who's a good illustrator is actually quite a rare combination of skills, especially if they're equally good at both things. NickTomlinson.com. But yeah, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to replicate as well, being the active word, a style that they've seen that clients are asking for and expecting, while not being illustrators. And they're also trying to componentize and make it as quick as possible to recreate, to change, to scale, and to actually and to even animate with as well.
Yeah, they're taking a design approach to what is illustration ultimately, and the end. Sorry, go on, Paul.
No, I was going to say it's really interesting because 10 years ago, illustration jobs were everywhere, weren't they? And you kind of needed to be a bespoke, dedicated illustrator. But now you never see illustration jobs advertised.
You don't see graphic design jobs advertised hardly anymore either. It's all just UX designer.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's part of that unicorn mentality, isn't it, of getting someone who can do everything, which is different from the reality. Yeah.
Well, that's why they're called unicorns, in fact.
Exactly.
More specifically.
Thank you, Nick. Not just because we've all got protrusions out of our forehead.
But because they're very difficult to find or catch. So I think just to explain that point, maybe over-explain it, the term unicorn, it's not the fact that a unicorn is a mythical creature, it's the fact that in the stories of unicorns, they're incredibly difficult to catch.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if they were real.
In every instance where they are caught, they're not immediately killed.
Usually, yeah. Have you ever seen The Last Unicorn, the animation called The Last Unicorn?
No.
It's very old. It's from the 80s. It's a kid's cartoon, and it's
very
horrifying.
old. It's from the 80s.
I know. If you're from the 80s, you're old.
Oh dear me!
I am officially from the 80s, but yeah, it's fantastic. So check that out. The Last Unicorn. It's an animation, and it's absolutely terrifying. But it's for kids. It's got boobs in it.
That's it.
Yeah. What?
So you don't see that in corporate Memphis, do you?
Well, unless you're on Pornhub, but
unless you're on Pornhub,
all types of boobs on Pornhub, isn't there?
Yeah. That's a
Including
sponsorship
you
deal
dirty
that we
bastards.
probably shouldn't be going for.
I don't know if we say that name out loud, do we get like stricken off Spotify and other streaming services?
Oh yeah, maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the most effective filter compared to the other stuff we say. We talk about watermelon, fucking, for Christ's sake.
I was trying to lay off that today, but
no, just because I've said that we talk about it doesn't mean we now have to talk about it.
Let's not. Let's carry on talking about.
Let's go. I've got some ideas why corporate Memphis is more prevalent nowadays as well.
Shoot.
So if you think about the last few years, say like 2019 onwards, think about kind of like the programs everybody's using now. So everybody's using like Figma or Sketch. Nobody's using like Photoshop anymore, or kind of those kind of tools that were predominantly illustratory, designy tools. You're using these tools that are built for flat 2D animation stuff, or kind of that corporate Memphis style. So it's really hard to get textures or kind of brushy kind of strokes into those programs unless you kind of like do weird and wacky things, with photos and stuff like that.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I went back and I looked at the Allegria like design document, and when you look at that, it's got the nice oh god, what's the actual term for it? Like the dissolve filter in Illustrator, like the speckled like texture that you see on things now.
I was going to say dithering, but that's a pixel art specific term.
Yeah, that's what it used to be called, but it's a little bit like the style that I used on the artwork I did for my friend's podcast, Throwing Shade.
Nice.
Check that out on Spotify.
That was a shameless plug, wasn't it?
But yeah, it's like
a shameless pug. It was a shameless pug.
I tend always to say that. I swear. Never mind.
Shameless pug. Yeah. So it's. But what I've noticed is like that's immediately dropped out of a lot of this stuff. And that was like done really, really well on the original stuff. It looks really nice. If you go check it out, it's really nice, and it's a good like design document as well. It's an actual. It's not surprising that it became what it became, because it was good.
Yeah, I think as you said, it's not that the shade is being thrown at the. I didn't mean to use that idiom then.
No, you didn't mean to do another pug.
Dear me. It isn't so much that people hate it because of the style itself. I do think it's because it's come to represent that process of manufacturing something that should be bespoke, and it's the difference between getting something that's handmade and artisanal and stuff like that, and then something that you try and treat like just another component or just another bit of design work, which has to follow certain guidelines and certain rules. Illustration is an opportunity to be more creative, isn't it? And to be more delightful. And you can inform it. For example, you can use accessibility to inform your decisions, but by and large, you're creating a flat screen that isn't going to be interacted with, and as such, you effectively have a blank canvas. It's that art that you get to.
I've got another theory as well. Sorry, Nick.
Go on.
I've got another theory why it's prevalent as well. That since if even 3 years ago, 2018, 2019, into that, a lot more of our touch points with these services and corporations are metaphorical, and they don't really exist in the real world. It's not like physical products, and it's not like you can pick up like a chocolate bar. You're talking about cloud stuff, you're talking about AI, you're talking about servers, you're talking about computing power and chips and the insides of even gadgets and things like that, because they get kind of like that's the marketing pitch, isn't it? How fast the processor is, how thing as that is, and how can you display that without giving away the entire secrets of your tech and how you've done it, and show kind of like the insides or like photos of chips. And who wants to see photos of like, and I'm not talking like chips from kind of like McDonald's or anything.
Yeah.
From the chip shop, yeah. We're talking, kind of like processors and things like that, CPUs, and it's weird.
It's making it tangible, isn't it? And applying like physical design to abstract concepts.
Yeah, and you've got to kind of like give that kind of like almost a personality and almost something tangible for people to be able to kind of almost understand and picture. Like the classic one, going back years and years, was shampoo commercials. So shampoo commercials, they did a lot of user research and they found out that shampoo commercials were more impactful when they included science. So when they talk about the hair follicles, the nanoparticles making your hair thicker.
Now with extra schmemulon.
Yeah, exactly. And they were made up words for these products, kind of like, it's a term for something else or an ingredient in their product. But because it sounds more sciencey and more
legit.
Expensive.
Yeah.
People were more kind of like, they go and buy it and stuff like that. So
Yakult got into a lot of trouble for this. We could do we could do a UX files on Yakult.
That's actually
getting in lots of bother because it just made up bacteria that was supposed to be in. But I think you make a really interesting point about trying to capture something abstract, but I think it goes one step further. And I think what we find these illustrations are now trying to do is they're trying to encapsulate an entire experience rather than just a product. They're trying to convey the idea of the user experience. They're trying to capture a mood. They're trying to capture a memory or a sense. It's like trying to draw how something smells. And how something tastes, and all of that at once. And so we end up with this quite whimsical style that's done to convey that.
They're trying to visualize the experience of using their whatever, visualize the experience of using Facebook or whatever. The thing I find most like repugnant about the whole thing is that they're attempting to seem approachable, aren't they? And the thing that I hate about it, and the thing that really winds me up, is because it's coming from a corporation. For example, Facebook, who are the ones that commissioned what became the originator of this style. Is, to me, it feels like a used car salesman putting his arm around you and going, "Trust me." It's that kind of vibe that I get from it. It's like, I don't trust you at all. And like this facade that you've put up in front of me is not fooling me for a second.
It's Facebook is your friend.
Yeah.
We are the people. We are the person you want in. We're not the product that you want. We're the person you want in your room with you, watching you all of the time. Isn't that right, Alexa?
That's why I've got headphones on.
Yeah. and as such, we're able to give so much of our lives to these corporations because we get convinced that we're here to serve you, not to make money out of you. As much money
not to gather your data.
Yeah, or in terms of Facebook, not to sell things to you, and you're actually the product. Which is a bit creepy.
There's a good book called How to Make Friends and Influence People, and that's all about.
That's quite old, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's all about marketing and kind of like, and that's exactly what this corporate Memphis style is. It's making friends, isn't it? And if you think you've got like a little digital friend, guiding you through a complex process, then that's nice, isn't it? That's good.
You don't feel as left and alone and as stupid because you can't figure it out, because there's someone very specifically designed to look as if to say, you're wrong, it's okay, it's not your fault. You're wrong. You're stupid. But that's it. You're a good person, and it's a real shame that all these influences have made you make terrible decisions. So we'll
But keep
guide you
making
through
them.
this. Yeah. We'll guide you through this and feel good. Buy this to feel good, and it's just it's that sinister overtones which get me. There was a point I was going to say actually, and I've just forgotten it. I've forgotten it and remembered it about 3 times over the point of this conversation.
I had a point that. Oh, go on.
I remembered, and that is that where they might be selling you this abstract thing can be selling you something that is abstract and intangible. It might be trying to sell you the experience. I think a lot of it try and sell you through this imagery the intended consequences, the way you'll feel, and what will happen, the good things that will happen if and when you use our software or buy our product. And I get that with you see it a lot with fragrance commercials.
Oh, they're nonsense, aren't they?
Adverts for fragrances, and of course the idea is you wear this and you'll all of a sudden be a very beautiful woman in Paris getting getting your
Your rocks off.
Yeah, getting your rocks off by the photographer who's not creepy at all. He's not creepy because consent is implied, and it's all kinds of problems.
God.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is going, Mark.
Well, it could go very swiftly into what I think is wrong with trying to sell those products like that, yeah, and the commodification of consent. But that's a big old topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
the UX files.
Yeah.
So one thing as well that I wanted to bring up, and I know you've got an opinion about this, Mark. So this is your time.
Oh, yeah,
this is your platform.
Red rag to a bull.
Yeah. So one of the things that they did, and it's even in the documentation for this design package that they put together, but they made it so it was done to tackle the idea of inclusivity and stuff as well. And what they did, and what they actually specifically said in the document, was that they got rid of realistic human skin tones, whatever that color is, and replaced it with unrealistic skin tones that don't exist. And what they actually did was produce something that is so inclusive that it doesn't even contain real people. They've excluded everyone, and therefore it's inclusive. And I know you, Mark, have got thoughts about that.
I think that is ultimately a false equivalence.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting way of completely avoiding the issue. By including no one, you're not making any kind of statement. You're remaining dangerously neutral by trying not to associate yourself with any kind of social conversation, or dare I say political conversation, socio-political, I guess, because you're turning around and saying, well, we're dealing with alien people. It's anything, and it's almost as if to say anything you infer from this is not our fault.
Yeah,
we've not said a thing, and that's a very dangerous position to be in, because the moment you say you're not saying anything is in itself a very large statement, I think.
It's like the whole idea of evil triumphs when good people do nothing, but not quite that extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's not quite that extreme. It's just incredibly avoidant, and it does. And I can say, as a minority, I'm a gay man, so I fall into that bracket. I can say that you do not represent me by not representing me. If you avoid, including, I don't know, shall we say, homosexual type narratives, and telling the stories of homosexual people because you avoid telling the stories of heterosexual people, that's not helping me. If anything, you're just trying to drag other people, everyone, down to the same level instead of raising everyone up to the same level. And I think if you avoid using skin tones, for example, you avoid you're not solving a problem. You're absolutely avoiding it, and you're specifically avoiding conversations about race and about black people and anyone who hasn't got a white skin tone, a Caucasian skin tone, and I think that it's very, very problematic.
It's a difficult conversation to have, though, isn't it? Which is why they default to this like non-representation.
Yeah, because the moment that, well, let's not to be controversial, but social media makes a lot of money out of the people it would upset.
Yeah.
By making a statement for inclusivity. It's being very specifically neutral, and I think that in itself is an intended stance. Because it doesn't exclude any potential customer base. Because again, anything you infer, if you decide that Facebook is being racist, then that's your decision because they've not made a statement either way, and that's a very easy position to defend, rightfully or wrongfully. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Anyway,
yeah.
Is Paul still with us?
I am still with you. Yeah.
I've just your camera's been frozen.
I know. I'm frozen.
Yeah.
Frozen. Trying to sort it out.
For me,
you tried unplugging it. Have you tried turning it off and back on again?
Yeah,
I have. Yeah. No. Classic IT help.
Classic IT help is no help at all in my experience.
Yeah. Did that help there, Nick? No, it didn't. Excellent. I'll just be closing the support ticket now.
Thanks for responding. That's all technically we need.
Definitely.
No,
you raise really good points, Mark, and I think some it kind of borders on though, kind of like what the principles of your company stand for, and some of it when you try and force it in, like there's something that grates me on Channel 4 is there's a sponsorship on there. And it's two girlfriends, and they've lost the key, and it's all very kind of like. But they seem to show it on programs that are, it's a sin and things like that, because that's kind of like
it's
a company
very cynically
is kind of
placed, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's and that
all the right people are going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that woke washing kind of thing that I think that there's a really fine line on being inclusive, but if actually your company doesn't stand for that, or it just has one message that it keeps putting out every time, Pride's on or something else, then
I was going to raise that actually, because we now call it in the gay community, corporate pride. Because I remember the games company Bethesda had the pride flag on all of their Western Twitters, but as soon as you got to territories that where it was more of an issue, where gay people didn't have the same rights, they didn't change their profiles on those Twitters. So, and that was just one example. The communications for, shall we say, Middle Eastern territories were very different compared to what was happening in their American or English communications. And I thought, well, as I say, as you say, it's because we're supporting you without supporting you. We're supporting you where we already know you're supported. You don't need our support, I do better as a gay man in England than the majority of gay men in the Middle East do. That's for damn sure. But they're not willing to have the conversation there where it would actually mean something, where it would count for something, because they'd offend a few people, and they'd risk losing customers.
It's not good for business, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's saying something without saying anything at all.
Absolutely.
Well, it's doing the absolute bare minimum, isn't it? Which you see as soon as the day after Pride Month ends and everyone switches their logos back to the branding colours.
Absolutely. And in fact, the corporations around this are so cynical now that they've picked up on the fact that we've picked up on this is what they're doing, and will occasionally leave it a week longer or a month longer.
Yeah, I noticed that this year. Yeah,
yeah, and that's because these corporations aren't doing anything to support gay rights. They're just kind of waving a little flag and hoping that as a result we'll buy their products.
Yeah.
And it's just it's the thin veil, the thin veneer has just peeled away, and I don't think they're fooling anyone.
No, if you don't put anything on the line, you can say whatever you want essentially, or you can say nothing and get away with it, can't you?
Yeah, there was someone on my LinkedIn made an interesting point, and he was part of a big meeting in his company, and they asked him, because he was a gay man, what should we be doing with our branding to see, to quote unquote support Pride? And he turned around and said, well, probably nothing, because what has this company actually done to support Pride, to support gay people? And the guy kind of just looked at him aghast, as if to say, you want us to say nothing? But how will people know that we support gay people? And it's like, well, do you? Do you really?
Well, yeah, you don't. People don't need to know that you support gay people. You just need to support gay people.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone wants people to know about the good work that they're doing anonymously.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point, in fact, is most of these companies aren't doing anything, anonymous or otherwise.
No.
They're just paying that.
For a time, that was classed as doing something.
Which, and for a time it did.
Yeah.
For that first couple of years, or when it started to gather momentum, it was enabling dialogues. It was getting the word out there. There was huge articles being written about what people were doing, for what corporations were doing for Pride Month. I remember Skittles had a campaign where they made all their Skittles white, I think, and that was because for that month the rainbow was ours, and that's a really nice campaign. I don't feel offended by that campaign. I feel the opposite. I do feel empowered by that. But the point is that raised the bar so much, and it's no longer raising the bar. We've had that conversation. It's done its job.
So I've heard anecdotally, you'd have to probably fact check me on this, but the first time they did that, they really lost a lot of money and like maybe some market share based around that. The thing that indicates that they probably actually care is the fact that they did it again.
Yeah,
knowing that would probably happen again.
Yeah, it is put to be effective though. You do have to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, well, that's it. If you do something that is the right thing to do, knowing that you'll lose money, it's probably quite a good indicator that you're actually doing it for the right reasons, not just doing it because it's de rigueur and everyone's doing it.
Yeah,
you got to keep up with the Joneses, which I guess to bring us full circle is kind of why this art style proliferated, because it was very much that kind of mentality. It's a reaction, isn't it, to someone doing something quite revolutionary.
Yeah, and I think, in a sense, if the original style, that the Allegra style that book created, if that was intentionally, and I imagine it was intentionally neutral, and that was I think that's absolutely fine, but I don't think it's appropriate to market that as inclusive, because neutrality isn't inclusive.
So would you say that not being exclusive or excluding is different to being inclusive?
Yeah, I would actually. That's a very good summary. I think if you aren't making an active effort to include people, then you aren't including them at all. And we don't feel. I mean, I don't feel included if as I say, if you're just excluding everyone else as well as me. That doesn't make me all of a sudden feel included. So I think, and I would go as far to say that because of the nature of Facebook and it's trying to include everyone, which includes the bigots as well, in its customer base, in its user base, that it would probably have given the brief to be as neutral as opposed to be as inclusive. And that just seems to be the spin they've tried to put on things.
Yeah, I'd be interested to go back through and read the actual wording and see if it actually specifies neutral rather than inclusive.
Yeah,
Paul,
that
still
would
there?
be interesting.
I am still here. Yes. I'm just listening
wanna go?
intently. Yeah, well, I'm going to bring this back to kind of why corporate Memphis is everywhere. And interestingly, I think there's a lot of like culture to play at this. I mean, kind of like if you look at, kind of like the TV shows where young designers are, coming from like Adventure Time. What else is the kind of all those kind of like Cartoon Network kind of shows that have the noodle arms and the rubber limbs and the legs, which are
The Amazing World of Gumball.
Oh yeah, and it's all very bright colours, with black outlines, and that's kind of like, is that part of this corporate Memphis because of that kind of like we've been grown up on these TV shows, and we've grown up on this style, and before then kind of like looking in your background, Nick, things were a bit more turtle-esque, a bit more kind of that He-Man style back then, but the I think the acceptance was kind of like back in the day was, let's get a photo shoot, let's get it 100% real, let's get and then stock imagery came along, and I think stock image destroyed design in a really negative way, because then you see all kind of like the same people with the headsets on, the sexy woman, because she's going to answer your phone call when you phone this corporation up, and you see the same people, and like I'm sure she doesn't work for 3 companies, and it ruins your trust then of kind of like stock images, and I think when you're searching for stock images, I was doing this the other day, and it's soul destroying. You put in technology, and you get all these bloody white male suit guys drawing on whiteboards, and you get this horrible.
Your success with images like that, your success with image banks like that, is how creative you are with your search terms, isn't it? Now,
definitely.
You have to be quite specific.
I think there's a really interesting point in there about how you're saying that. Image banks destroyed like design. It's pretty interesting that Unsplash has destroyed image banks now, because everywhere you turn, because it's free and the photographs on there arguably are pretty good. You see them everywhere
well,
now.
This is true, but that's because it's doing a lot to. I was going to say to support, but I'm not sure how much it actually does to support freelance photographers. I think it's
that mentality of it'd be good exposure for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I have often thought, I like that photo.
Yeah.
But so I go and find out who took it, and then follow them on various socials. But that's my mentality. I do the same thing after I've read books and after I've listened to music. Not that I think I'm probably a minority when it comes to doing that with people on Unsplash, especially when it comes to corporations crediting stuff. They just, I like what Adobe do, I must admit. Every release, I don't know how they do it, but their art is created in the products you're in. Typically,
I imagine
that for Facebook and Illustrator, Photoshop.
I imagine
and Illustrator.
Those artists. I feel like I would default to expecting that those artists get dicked over in terms of.
I imagine
artwork.
it's a competition as opposed to them getting fair pay.
But I like the concept. I like that they're doing that.
It's a nice idea, and it could be taken a bit further to be more. To pay its artists well, to provide exposure, to support them. I completely agree with what you're saying there, Paul.
And then also as well, you brought up Unsplash, and kind of like, because that is free, there's a really good thing for Figma called Humans with 3 A's.
Yes.
And that is everywhere, and that is, you can download this library of interchangeable bodies and heads and actions and plants and things like that are used everywhere. And I think I read an article a few weeks ago, and the guy who created it said, they must have millions and millions of downloads of that library, and that is used everywhere. And kind of like that is because that's free. Is that because it's got no kind of licensing or any kind of limits on where you can use it? So that's a bit part to blame as well.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that was one of my notes to mention. So the second that I saw that was saturation point, and that was the moment where I was like, oh, this is done. This is done now. This style, as we need to start, because actually when we found that, it was because we were looking to put in a style of our own into the product. I was like, we need to start looking at the next thing. This is done now.
Yeah.
This is going to be everywhere. And not only that, but that in particular, that humans thing, is just about the bottom of the barrel in terms of that style. It's so basic and so like it's so poorly executed. It's like entry level illustration sort of. I mean, not to cast shade on anyone, but it's like graduate style illustration. I think that is. And it's compared to the originator, which we now know is that Allegria, it's crap.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've componentized it now and turned it into a system, and a free one at that, for anyone who's got Figma, was the last nail in the coffin, I think.
Yeah,
because it's everywhere now, absolutely everywhere.
It is, and I think you see isometric design that's creeping up as well, and that's becoming the next corporate Memphis, and everybody's doing isometric design, and that, oh god, yeah.
I'd quite like to spend a portion of like the next 15 minutes really talking about where we think it's going.
Yep.
So tune into the Patreon extended version for that content.
Hey,
I like what you've done there, Nick.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our recurring segment, UX Tombola. Every episode we wheel out the UX Tombola machine, which randomly selects a product, thing or process for us to discuss the UX of, whether good, bad or ugly.
So we're having a Screamo one today, are we?
Are you doing the yeah. Go on.
Go on.
I only know one Screamo song. I don't even think it's Screamo. It's like a Linkin Park song.
Then no, it's not Screamo, and I think we're going to get some very angry letters from the Screamo metal community.
Crawling in my skin, UX Tombola thing. It's very hard to be artistic when you're sat with your fucking head in your hands, Mark. Just in there. It just doesn't work. UX Tombola is not a very lyrical set of words, is it?
No, too many syllables.
So, right, someone stick your hand in the hole and give it a tug.
Oh, the gnome's getting excited.
Oh dear.
Right, okay. What have we got today? It is...
Seamless.
Nick, can you tell me what it is, please?
Yeah.
I can't fucking read.
We've been doing this for like a year now, would you? Exams.
What? This is...
It's quite a good year to talk about that, actually, because they changed it up a little bit this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
And the teachers that have been teaching the children for the past 5 years were asked to grade the children, which seems like a fucking fantastic idea when you think about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. The misnomer with exams is that what you're doing is you're consolidating years and years and years of educational experience into like 4 questions.
I know.
And it just becomes an absolute fucking potluck as to whether you were good at that module and good at that bit. And it's more a test of your memory than it is of your skill.
Yeah. And let's face it, nowadays, when would you ever be in the situation of like an exam where you have to be kind of like, oh, just wait a minute. Let me do some long multiplication on this, and I'll get back to
Without
you
a
in
calculator.
I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Or when would you never, look on Wikipedia and Google things?
Well, even your GP sits there with Google
I
open to
know.
remind him now.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
And I'm not going to say that. I mean, I'm not going to turn around and say I could do that. I mean, I wouldn't want to flick through those pictures on Google. When Doris is inquiring about a colonoscopy for the 16th time, and
when they spin round in the chair and type in "common cold" into Google, though, you know you're in trouble, don't you? What is a pimple?
And then, of course, WebMD tells you that you're going to die or that you're already dead.
You're already dead.
I feel like there's a story behind this, Mark.
Oh, like, search anything. I've got an ingrowing hair. Yep, you're a corpse. It's the only description. But I think, well, so the UX of exams, as it currently stands, is that you tend to be shuffled into a big hall. You do it all on paper unless you've got certain accessibility needs.
I was just going to say, is it all on paper still?
Yeah. And it requires invigilators. And this is regardless of the type of exams you're doing, whether you're doing exams as an adult. I remember when I was older and I was doing my grade 5 music theory exam, and that was exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so you've got these invigilators who are paid by the hour. I don't know if they're paid well, I doubt it, to stand in front of the room and pay attention to everyone, which feels like almost a Zen Buddhist level of job, to be alert and aware in every direction for a 4-hour exam.
Oh my god, yeah. That must be. I think that's on par with my my job standing on a changing cloakroom in a well-known retail shop. And it was like watching paint dry.
Oh my!
Sorry, say that again. You got employed and paid to hang around a changing room.
Yeah. Not in a good way, like you're thinking. Like,
I don't think
good way.
Deviant.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That was the bit you weren't paid for. Incidentally, it's why you were fired.
That's why you do that job.
Where you hand out tokens. Oh, you were taking 4 things into the changing room.
That system's a complete fucking mystery as well.
God, yeah.
Arbitrary.
And that's, it's like super boring. One thing I will ask though, because with exams, I'm going to put into the barrel driving exams or driving tests.
Technically qualifies.
Yeah.
Is it a form of exam?
I mean, prostate exams technically qualify, so we could talk about those if you want.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, you don't require an invigilator for that one, do you?
I know, but I do like someone else to be in the room.
Yeah, you do like being watched.
Yeah, essentially.
Right. Okay. Well,
by the man stood in the car park eating a Greg's pasty.
I need you, sir. It's like, I thought you'd never ask. The other thing I'd say about any exam, like more like a school exam, is you tend to be gifted. You tend to be rewarded if you've got quick handwriting.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so much quicker to type on a laptop, and so much easier. That
Especially
wonder why.
Spell check in your English exam.
Yeah, we get marked on spelling, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you get marked on spelling in your English exam?
Spelling and punctuation, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I did a couple. I've got a few English GCSEs. Because I've got a stupid amount of GCSEs. I've got like 16 or 17 GCSEs, and I've got the certificates for them all somewhere. And that's just because our school said, "Oh, well, you'll be able to do that exam. It's for the less bright ones. You might as well do it and get another GCSE."
How many are you supposed to have?
Most people have about 11, I think.
I don't think I've got 11, but that's
I don't think I've got 11.
that's because I
filled
was
out
robbed.
I filled out a form saying how many I've got, and I'm sure it said like 6. But I didn't like.
Sorry,
No, but I
shouldn't-
failed.
I just laughed at you then. I didn't mean for that to come across like that.
No, I haven't got 6 because I passed them all. So I haven't got 6 because I failed 10 of them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I did all the ones I was entered for. Maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key.
Yeah, maybe.
Can't even string a fucking sentence together. So English
Yeah,
test is a
so-
waste of paper.
Don't
Oh.
bother. Yeah, well, I've got 4 science GCSEs.
For science?
Yeah, because
Right.
Yeah.
we did separate science, and then they just threw us into the combined science one as well because they knew we'd be able to do it because we'd been doing it separately.
I got robbed on sciences at school. I did 3 subjects that counted for 2 GCSEs. How?
Yeah. So
How-
we did biology, chemistry, and
That's
physics, and it
monstrous.
classed as 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a-
yeah.
what a
So that's
rip-off.
combined science, that we did, as well as our separate science one.
Combined science,
science.
aka science.
Science. Yeah. I also have an art GCSE and a graphics GCSE and a graphics technology GCSE.
Right,
What?
yeah, they did that with my
Okay.
they did that with my A levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my high school was and still is. It's like a technology college, or at least it fancies
okay.
itself. So we had to do a technology subject. I did graphic design. It was a lot of bollocks, really. The most remarkable thing about that class was how big my teacher's head was. She had a fucking enormous head.
This is because the doctor wasn't googling the right things.
Yeah.
Bloody head
Yeah.
syndrome from fucking Theme Hospital.
And she-
It's attending and sitting through all those exams and vigilating them.
yeah, that's it.
It's all that knowledge
Lot of
that she's
attention.
she's learned through osmosis.
I do wonder if you bored as an invigilator, you just sit there and do the exam yourself for shits and giggles. I think I could be driven to that point. It's like,
Yeah, but then you're not watching the kids then.
yeah, no,
cheating
but I wouldn't
them.
do that anyway. I mean, come on. The invigilators sit there whispering to themselves about how twatted they got, like, at the weekend. They're not watching for...
Oh, have you seen this meme for the meme lord?
Yeah, that's it.
He's going to be a meme lord when he's older.
Yeah, I know that one. That guy there, he's dank, him. His memes are dank.
Yeah, a guy who writes everything in Impact.
Yeah. Oh, very good, Paul. Very good. Oh.
I've just realised that we wanted to introduce a session where Mark Steeler does an impromptu ad
yes.
for the product. Isn't there? Is it
yeah.
Mark
Oh, yeah.
Steeler? Is that the right name?
Yeah,
It's Mark Steeler, yeah. Mark
Yeah.
Steeler and John Wheeler.
Is
Well,
Mark
uh,
Steeler there today?
Have we come up with a?
I could ask him.
No, we need to. So we need to solutionise right now, and
Yeah,
then Mark
yeah.
Steeler needs to come and advertise it.
Come and advertise it, yeah. Well, what's our solution then?
I reckon that you should have a device that each student gets that has the test on it. So the actual device is part of the test kit, and whatever it is allows like a seamless, unfakeable way of entering the data into the test. And
Yeah.
also, if you're allowed a calculator in the test, it's got the calculator on it and stuff as well.
Well, you see, I think that all tests should allow people to bring their notes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
because they've made research that they've done the fucking research. Nowhere in real life, unless you'd lose your note back. Well,
Oh, your notebook.
I think I just had a stroke. Jesus. Your notepad. If you lose that, then it's your own fault. But nowhere in real life, unless you do that, do you not have your notes either on your computer or with you?
Yeah, no.
I've just realised actually the real solution is probably closer to what they actually did this year, which is let the person who knows them and knows their aptitude give them a
Yeah.
grade.
I
Right,
think they should be graded over time and not on a instance.
No.
A single instant
yeah,
where if you have
you
a
know,
bad day,
yeah,
and a lot of people do, there are
yeah,
there are kids
Well,
now
this,
who have to go to
uh,
therapy because of how much stress is put on their
yeah,
GCSEs.
yeah,
Something
yeah,
just having a
which,
test will throw you off.
yeah,
yeah,
and something which I might add. So sorry for our younger viewers who have got a lot of worry about the GCSEs. It's only ever referred to once in your entire life, and that's if you go into college.
It's just the
yes.
next step. It's
Yeah.
just the
know.
next step, and then that next step is important for the next step. It's
Yeah.
just gatekeeping, essentially, isn't it?
It's a load of bollocks.
It is fucking bollocks.
So
Because just because you're good at a test or bad
No.
at a test doesn't mean that you can't do a job or you're not bright. It certainly
No.
doesn't mean that you're not bright.
Absolutely.
That's absurd.
Wasn't it Stephen Hawking said those who boast about their IQ are thick? Well,
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing
that sounds like something.
that.
One of the world's greatest men,
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking. That
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like
But
something.
based.
It actually went like this. He was thick.
Oh, lovely.
I was having this conversation. Not this conversation. I've never had this conversation.
Yeah, well, that's the truth.
I was having this conversation with Drew the other week, and I likened taking tests to like the UFC. The same two people can fight 3 times in the UFC, and you can have 3 different results. One can win one time, the other can win the other time, and it can be a draw on the third occasion. And that's just like taking a test. If you have an off day, if you're not well, if you're nervous, you could do really badly.
And that's it. That's meant to assess you for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
Yeah,
It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
It's bollocks.
So we need a product. Sorry.
There was a point I wanted to make about IQ tests because, as you say, I think IQ is a load of bollocks because I think IQ shows you how good you are at doing IQ tests.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's all it does. And it's like, it doesn't mean that you're clever.
No,
it means that you're good at doing one very specific kind of test.
You
and
need
that
to
test
be able to read
devised.
and do maths to do it as well, don't you?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. But is that the same kind of mathematics that's applicable to like neuroscience? Or electrical engineering,
sciences.
or combined sciences, or being an invigilator.
As an invigilator, let's see your fucking results.
Yeah, exactly, Mr. IQ.
That's why they're doing that job, though.
And I guarantee the people who do boast about their IQ are all exclusively men.
Oh yeah. I can.
That's just. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I agree with that.
What's our product?
What's up? I think it's some sort of. In fact, there is there's a few kind of smart toys that do this. So kind of like I remember when Ted was a baby, he had this little leapfrog laptop thing. And when he did things right on it, it gave you a little report and a little stat, and every time he interacted with it. So I think a lifelong kind of like data set, like Google Analytics,
Like it.
of education.
Google Analytics on your life.
Yeah,
I was gonna say like Ziggy from Quantum Leap.
You'll have to explain what that is.
Yeah. For those not born in the 80s.
You need to watch more of the things that I've watched, Mark.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
My friend owns an analytics company, and he had an analytics tool, and I was so close to getting him to call it Ziggy. It was tangible, and then he went with something else instead. Probably better, to be honest. But
shame.
Anyway, sorry, Matt, who had the idea? Paul?
Yeah, me. Yeah, Google Analytics for
your life,
for education or your life. Yeah. So you
that
get
that could go either way, couldn't it? That's very Black
Mirror. Yeah.
It is a bit Black Mirror, but actually it gives you good data over a period of time, doesn't it? So,
yeah.
How do companies use it to make money against your consent?
I think
just sell it to
that
Facebook.
Yeah. And they've already got it all anyway, so never mind. I saw an interesting quote once, which was trying to be aloof, which is people say that the world's going to be like 1984, But in 1984, people didn't choose to have the screens. We're choosing to
They had them
have the
thrust
screens.
upon them.
Yeah.
And they didn't choose to edit their own language either. That was thrust upon them, weren't it?
Yeah.
And probably
We're
for
freely editing ours.
And for another podcast, we should talk about the metaverse. Have you seen the VR horrific metaverse? So you kind of put a VR headset in and you become a computer embodied person. And it's Mark Zuckerberg's. Well, he doesn't call it the metaverse. He calls it called intranet life or some bullshit term. Anyway.
Something that sounds like it can be sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a horrific thing. Anyway, Nick, you were going to say.
I don't know if I was going to say anything. We just need a product, don't we?
We've got one. Yeah. What we're going to call it?
What is it? Google Analytics for your life?
Yeah.
Well, what's it doing? It's like the exam.
It's got to be for exams, isn't it? Because that's what the product was. That's what the Tombola was. So it's a thing. It's a product that you sell to schools to allow children to be
assessed over years instead of over
Edulytics.
Edulytics.
Yeah, I just want to.
Edulytics.
I just want to say that to see Mark Steeler.
Yeah. I'm doing the mental gymnastics in there.
Analytics.
What's something that assesses you over years? Cambridge Analytica. Facebook.
Yeah.
What about BookBook? Oh no, that's
BookBook. Yeah, BookBook.
BookBook's already a thing. IKEA did the IKEA BookBook.
Edgecase. No, Edgecase. As in like Edgecase. Edgecase.
Right.
Educase. Educase.
I'll go
Educase. Let's go with it.
I'll go get Mark.
Mark, come on.
Mark.
I'm going to mute myself for this because I'm going to laugh like a fucking hyena.
Oh no, don't worry. You can mute. We'll just quieten you down if you're laughing all over.
Yeah.
It's a bit sinister if I'm the only one in the room. Are you coming? We've got another product for you. Not another fucking product. Right.
Sounds suspiciously like Mark Sutcliffe, doesn't it?
I know, yeah. I'm not in character yet. Yeah.
I just love how
I am Mark. Right.
For anyone who can see the video, it just
I know. I'm just shouting into a cloth.
It's a microfiber cloth.
I got it from
my shit.
from Mark Steeler. Right, Mark, how are you doing? I'm all right, thank you, son. I'm all right. How's the market? How's the market these days? Oh, it's great. It's fairly fine. Right, we've got now Educase. Right, what the fuck is Educase then? Right, I'm Mark Steeler with my latest product that will help you assess your child over a longer period of time instead of all at fucking once. It's called Educase, and it will stalk your kids throughout their school life and assess them accordingly. They won't be judged for just one off day, they'll be judged for all of them. There we go.
All off days.
That's fucking genius.
Oh my god.
That was amazing.
Right, thanks, Mark. You can get back in your cupboard now.
I'm Mark Steeler. Judging children since 2022.
Next year?
Yeah. Well, he's still in R&D, isn't it?
Coming soon.
Coming soon to a school near you, whether you want it or not. Find me selling them at the bottom of the playground.
All right, Mark, simmer down.
Oh, God. Hilarious. Love it. Is that us?
And that wraps up another episode. Thanks for listening. Don't forget you can sign up to our Patreon at patreon.com/fasterhorses for an exclusive extended version of this episode, as well as one bonus episode a month and other perks detailed on the site. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred streaming service and follow us on Twitter. Catch you in a couple of weeks for another episode of Faster Horses.